Hi guys, I'm here today to show you my new Max for Live device, Polysequencer. I thought I'd give you a bit of a demonstration and tutorial on some of the features it has to offer. Okay, great, let's take a look. So I have an instance of Wavetable here, which I think will be a good demonstration of what Polysequencer can do. Let's go ahead and turn it on, and we'll start the sequence. You can hear it's playing the same note over and over again. Now, if we look down here at the sequence section, we can actually scroll through the different layers of the sequencer. You can see it changes colors. And we got in the third sequence here. And essentially each sequence is a voice for the sequencer. So if we start changing the notes, we'll be able to see the layers below. We can go to the second layer here. Draw that in. And now we can see all three layers. And we can see how the notes are interacting with each other. Now if we play that back, we'll hear an A minor chord. We can scroll through each layer and take a look. We can turn off the note for each layer. We can also adjust the zoom on each different layer. We can go to the velocity section under the tabs, change the velocity of each. Now we can go to the parameters section, and we can see that each step has a 1 through 27 value range, which we can assign to any parameter in Live. So right now this is done through the device section, and it's set to live, as you can see. Now if we go to map, it starts blinking, and we can say assign it to the wave shape of oscillator 1 on the wavetable. And you can see it is now assigned. And let's set the second one to the frequency. When you select a parameter, it will automatically change the parameter that you've selected. So now let's change the value of parameter 1 on the sequencer. So now it's going from 0 to 127 every other step. So let's play that and see what it does. So we can see the values going back and forth from 0 to 61. So if we increase the slider here, it'll actually change where the range of the parameter sits. Then of course you can draw on it. And these changes here are actually mirrored on the other sequences as well. So essentially you have 2 parameters per preset. We could change the other parameter as well. Change the range a little bit here. Okay, great. So that's essentially the sequencer and tab section. And if we look down here, there's one last tab which we should look at. It's called the reset tab, and basically it just resets the pitch back to its original state. So now let's look at some of the more comprehensive parameters that control the sequencer. If we look over here, we can actually see the mode. If we change the mode, it'll actually force the sequencer to a specific mode. Right now it's an Ionian C. We can also change the key, so let's change it to D. Now let's draw on some pitches and see what that sounds like. As you can see, it's very easy to get some musical sequences going. Now let's change the octave. And right now it's set to 8N. And let's turn on the swing. The swing can only be set when the pulse is set to 8N, 16N, or 32N. Now let's increase the speed of Live's tempo. And right now it's synced to Live with the sync button right here. Now if we turn it off, we'll be able to see the sequencer playing from the same point that it stopped on. Now when it's synced, it'll actually start from the beginning of the sequence every time. And the sync button also helps with recording in Live as well. So if we create a new MIDI track here, and we set the input to Polysequencer, and we arm it, we can now record this MIDI sequence in Live. So now that MIDI information is stored and saved within Live. Over here in the preset section, we have 4 slots where we can actually store different sequences. The C and P button down here are the copy and paste buttons, so we can copy this sequence and go ahead and paste it to the second slot here. Now if we go over to the mode and key section, let's change the key to F. Now let's say we like this sequence as well. We can actually alternate between the presets. And the way it works is that it alternates in a clockwise fashion. And it goes at the speed of this knob here, which is set to bars. So let's go back to the first sequence here. And let's set it for 4 bars. This button here actually changes the slots that the presets cycle through. So let's go ahead and click that. So let's go ahead and click play. And it'll cycle through the sequence for 4 bars until it changes to the next slot. And you can change the amount of bars you want it to cycle through. And you can do that for all 4 slots. So we can actually bring back some of these preset slots here. And if we wanted to cycle through this as well, we could cycle through it. It goes back to the default state. Let's bring in the last one there. So if we don't like one of these sequences, the last button here on the preset section is the reset button. And this essentially resets all the parameters, besides the global parameters, which are in gray, to their default state. So let's check that out. Great, so now we have a clean sequencer here where we can then program in a different sequence if we wanted to. And we can clear the parameter slot by simply clicking X here. And of course we're setting the parameter values. Now if we look in this device section, I've actually set up a few more devices that you can send out the parameter values to, such as the microKORG XL. But first we'll want to set up a MIDI channel for the pitches to be able to send to the microKORG. So create a new channel here. Let's relabel it microKORG. And then we want the MIDI in to come from the Polysequencer. And then we want the MIDI out to go to the microKORG. So now let's set up an audio track for the microKORG audio to come back into. Relabel this microKORG audio. And then we'll have it come in through the first input. So now let's go back to the Polysequencer track. And we'll arm the microKORG audio track as well. And if we put this back now, we're actually going to hear the Polysequencer sequencing the microKORG. Now let's change some of the parameters within the microKORG itself. Let's go to decay, and we'll click this to be on. And let's shorten that decay time. Now let's go to the second parameter here. Let's change it to portamento. Let's turn it on. You can see it gets a little crazy. Let's tone it back a bit. Give it a little bit of glide. And while this is going, you can actually sequence the wavetable as well if you wanted. Now let's change the speed. Notice if I change the speed here on this one, it only reflects per slot. The swing here is global. Yeah, so that's the microKORG being sequenced. There's also the possibility to sequence the Prophet 08, which has its parameters listed here, as well as an initial CC for any other MIDI device that you may want to sequence. And if you have any suggestions for devices you want me to add, just let me know and I can add it to the list. There's a few more standard sequencer controls, such as the direction or the number of steps, which can go up to 64. You can also type it in if you want. But essentially that's it for the Polysequencer. Hope you guys enjoy it, and let me know if you have any suggestions. Awesome, thanks. Take care.